J-Lo's 6 engagement rings.
Yeah, she's got a good collection of engagement rings. And you know, you don't have to get engaged 6 times. You can also just have multiple rings from the same partners.
Sophia Hirsh, the UK's queen of diamonds, who reigns over Hirsh London, one of Mayfair's most prestigious jewellers.
I've loved diamonds and gems ever since I was a little girl. I think one of the attractions for me is the sort of permanence of diamonds and rare gemstones. You know, they're billions of years old and they outlive us all.
You can get a variety of colour of diamonds.
Red is the rarest colour, and then pinks and blues. A very vivid yellow diamond is extremely rare. I was asked to make a pair of matching nipple rings, so that was quite surprising.
What is the purpose behind a nipple ring?
Just to dress up your nipples.
Would it be someone that we know?
Well,
It was one of the largest burglaries that has ever taken place within London in recent times.
It was a £200 million heist in Hatton Garden.
The target, the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company, in the heart of London's Diamond District.
Do you ever fear that something like that might happen to your store?
I did not know a single person that lost anything in that heist. So, yeah.
Oh. I'm Sam Vanderpump, born into a family of entrepreneurs. However, I'm forging my own path, running a foreign exchange brokerage, working with some of the biggest global brands. Each week, I sit down with the power players, innovators, and legacy builders in my network to uncover the bold moves, breakthrough moments, and behind-the-scenes grits that turn big ideas into filthy rich realities. Welcome to Filthy Rich, the podcast where money meets meaning and success leaves a story. She's the creative force behind Hirsh, one of Britain's most exclusive luxury jewellers. A business that began in Hatton Garden back in 1980 and now caters to VIPs, collectors and occasionally royalty. Welcome to Filthy Rich, Sophia Hirsh.
Thank you, Sam. Great to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We have a special relationship and there's a reason for that. And you were the mastermind and helper behind my lovely Alice's engagement ring.
Yeah, it was really wonderful to be a part of this amazing milestone for you both. And I still remember when you sort of first came in filming and introduced yourself. And I hadn't been sort of such a big part of the organization as my lovely team was dealing with it. So I remember you introducing yourself as, "Hi, I'm Sam, I'm a broker." And I was thinking, hang on, I think you're an actor. And I hadn't realized you were actually looking for an engagement ring. So when you then explained, and we later had the pleasure of creating this bespoke piece for you both, it was just such a special moment. And the fact that you got engaged in the beautiful townhouse as well. I still remember the music playing, and it was amazing to be part of that.
Well, thank you for helping us create such a magical moment. For my listeners who don't know, it really was an amazing thing. Not only did Sophia and her team create an amazing engagement ring, but they also let us propose in the jewellers, which was, we had a 3-piece ensemble with flowers everywhere. So I have to say, if anyone's going to go get engaged, they have to go visit you guys.
Oh, thank you. And I have to say, you have exquisite taste. The diamond you chose was absolutely stunning, and it really suits Alice's hand so well.
Let's dive straight into it. Obviously, we're talking diamonds. Marilyn Monroe famously said diamonds are a girl's best friend. More recently, Rihanna said, "Shine bright like a diamond." So what is your obsession with diamonds?
Well, I've loved diamonds and gems ever since I was a little girl. I used to dig our back garden, convinced there would be some treasures down there. And I guess I've always liked sparkly things. I think one of the attractions for me is the sort of permanence of diamonds and rare gemstones, and the fact that, you know, they're billions of years old and they outlive us all, and they're, you know, they're precious, but they're also have this historic historic feeling to them as well. And yeah, what's not to love? And I think, diamonds are a girl's best friend. And I think also from a romantic perspective, obviously you chose a diamond for your engagement ring. It's a symbol of this special chapter in your lives. But as life develops, often you do celebrate special events, birthdays, anniversaries, a promotion with something permanent like that. And I think us being able to put beauty and create a piece with these sort of rare minerals from Earth are, it makes my day.
Was it true that Hirsh were one of the first jewellers to introduce pink diamonds into pieces back in the 1980s?
There were very few of us, I think, back in the days. Hirsh, also Graf at the time, really worked with natural color diamonds from a very early stage and realized their rarity. I think there was generally more interest in white diamonds at the time. But Anthony, who is our founder, founded the company with Diane, just loved color. And so I think that's something that we have carried on, being the second generation now, and is this appreciation for the fact that actually everyone is different, and you can have a beautiful white diamond, but you can also have these sort of really rare hues of pinks, whites, chameleon diamonds, and so on. But
you can get a variety of colour of diamonds, and some are less rare and all the way up to the most rare. So how does that scale work?
So rarity has to do with the color, but also the intensity, the sizes, of course, the carat size of the gems. But generally speaking, the rarest colors are, the red is the rarest color, and then pinks and blues are sort of next on the scale. But even a very vivid yellow diamond is extremely rare compared to a natural white diamond, for example.
And what would you say the least rarest is?
What people call the champagne diamonds, the sort of lower color white diamonds, will be the least rare.
So don't buy your fiance a yellow diamond, you would say. It might be seen as cheap.
I think a yellow diamond can be absolutely stunning. Just if it's yellow, it should look yellow. It should not look sort of very sort of in between a yellow and a white, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But no, if it's a canary yellow diamond, I approve.
Okay, fair enough. So other than colour, what makes a pink diamond different to the regular ones?
In terms of the mineral itself, it's the same mineral, but different colour diamonds have different intensities. And for example, the pinks will have certain elements. A blue will have some boron, a yellow will have nitrogen. It's not always known what makes the diamond that particular color, but they are completely unique. And it's, no stone is ever quite the same. In fact, if you take a laboratory like GIA, which is a world famous laboratory for diamonds in general, it's incredibly difficult to categorize a diamond. So for example, we have a collection of purplish pink diamonds, which are all certificated the same exact color. But if I show them to you, they look different to the eye. And that's because there are so many elements when it comes to the color, and it's quite difficult to sort of just put it in a box and take it into one particular color grade.
So J-Lo's, 6 engagement rings. I think it was the 4th one, wasn't it? Which was a pink diamond. That was, probably...
She's got a good collection of engagement rings.
I mean, to get engaged once and have an amazing diamond ring, but I guess she's got 6 great diamond rings, doesn't she?
Yeah, and you don't have to get engaged 6 times. You can also just find a really good partner and just have multiple rings from the same partner. So,
is that what it's like for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, have 2 hands, plenty of fingers. I'm quite happy alternating and moving rings around. I think it's, rings are so fun to wear because you get to see them.
That's got to be one of the best parts about owning Hirsh jewellery, right? Is being the owner, you have access to the most amazing jewellery pieces?
I do. Except I would say that it's also very dangerous, because if I start wearing something, it will generally, if I end up adopting it into my permanent collection. So
It can become quite expensive quite quickly.
Indeed. But then again, I wouldn't, if I didn't love what I do, I wouldn't be doing it. So it sort of makes sense that you want to have a few beautiful rings yourself.
We have diamonds, and they're not cheap, as we know. What is the most expensive piece you've ever sold?
The rarest piece probably would be a round chameleon diamond, which is...
And sorry, just to interrupt you, what is a chameleon diamond? You've mentioned that once before.
So a chameleon diamond changes color. It's an extremely rare occurrence. It changes color with light, or if it's or heat. So in general way, you will see it as a green diamond. So it's lovely olivey green. But then if it's been left in the safe for a very long period in the dark and you take it out, it looks orangey yellow. Likewise, if it's exposed under heat, you could, don't try this at home, by the way, but you can put a flame to it and literally see it change from green to orange and back. We've got some in the townhouse, and I'll show you next time you stop by. But they're really amazing, and we were very fortunate to acquire what we think was the largest round chameleon. They're very rare, so there's very few in the world, and it was just a really, really special piece, and it's gone to a fabulous home. I love the owners of this diamond, so I'm really, but that, in terms of rarity, that's probably the rarest that I've sold.
And how much?
They are so rare. It's, there's a value when you sell, and we can look back through the decades and go, should have held on to that stone. And that's, there's so many stones we've sold over the years that have just soared in value. But I think for me, what was really special with that is it was a really unique, sort of very, very vibrant stone. And normally you find chameleon color diamonds, you often find them in specialty cuts, ovals or cushions. To find a round is super rare.
So how many figures? Just tease us a little bit.
I mean, it's a 7-piece stone, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's good to know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
If you wear a vivid pink diamond, that's super rare. Most people have no idea what you're wearing. Same with an alexandrite or Paribas tourmaline. They're beautiful, but they're not something that most people will be familiar with. And often they're so unique. So it's not something that, can be replicated.
You talk about this chameleon diamond, which sounds absolutely beautiful. I mean, how often do you come in contact with diamonds like this?
Diamonds of that particular size, that's the only one that I've ever seen.
Wow.
Except in a museum. And with even stones, for example, I have been looking to match a pair of stones for a pair of earrings, and that took me 3 years.
Wow.
And they were just shy of 2 carats each.
Where you're based now, in the heart of Mayfair, you're no stranger to extraordinary requests, extraordinary clientele. What would you say is one of the most exclusive pieces you've made, or one of the coolest stories? Or
Well, I'd say the most surprising recent commission, I was asked to make a pair of matching nipple rings. So that was quite surprising and something new. We generally tend to make jewelry that you see. So this is obviously a little more discreet. It was quite fun. We ended up designing them sort of almost like mini dumbbells, and different colored, different gems. You could have black diamond and white diamond, or sapphire and ruby, and you could alternate the little gems on the side.
how much detail went into these nipple rings?
A lot.
Oh my God.
And of course, you have to think of weight, because platinum or gold, they're heavy metals, so you want it to be comfortable. So anyway, so that was probably the most surprising recent commission. And I think historically, one of the funniest things we created for an American client a matching set of back scratchers in gold, diamond, and platinum. They were really cool. Sold them to this lovely American client and who loved them. And then his wife loved jewellery. So she brought the back scratchers and said, actually, could I have a necklace instead? And so we were very accommodating. We loved the back scratchers anyway. So she changed them for a necklace. And then her husband came back and
I want
said,
the back scratchers.
I love the back scratchers. So he bought them back. So everyone was happy. He had back scratchers and she had a necklace.
I mean,
So-
see, these nipple rings, I mean, who on earth requests nipple rings?
Well, the thing with jewelry is it's such a personal expression of your taste, right? And the beauty when you handcraft every piece is you can actually create something that's really personal and special to the client you have, you're designing for. And in fact, I think creatively, even though it's a tiny, tiny object, you have to make sure that it's still fit for purpose. So no,
What is the purpose behind a nipple ring?
just to dress up your nipples.
Would it be someone that we know? Is it a famous name?
I can't disclose that, I'm afraid.
Fine, I won't tease you too much. This episode is sponsored by one of my businesses, Vanderpump FX. If you're a business sending or receiving money from abroad, contact us. Most banks and providers overcharge you on the exchange rates. At Vanderpump FX, we can help businesses and individuals like you save on every transaction. With savings up to 5% compared to most banks. We make sure your money stays where it belongs, in your pockets, not the bank's. So your father-in-law set up, obviously, Hirsh,
Yeah.
back in the 1980s in Hatton Garden. Why does all the jewellery sort of seem to stem around Hatton Garden? Why is it where everyone stays?
I think historically it was very much the sort of hub for jewelry making in this country. It's changed gradually over the years. I think when we were there in the 80s and early 90s, there were a lot of manufacturers that were manufacturing very fine quality pieces. We were there, Graf was there, David Morris was there in the early days. And then I think a lot of the manufacturers making very fine pieces moved to Mayfair, where now there is a more sort of tailored, sort of bespoke, high quality experience. But in terms of trading, it's always been a bit of a hub. I think nowadays there's more, it's geared more towards sort of maybe the lab grown market and different things, and not as much the sort of finest quality pieces that were there when we were there in the 80s. But it was sort of the hub, a lot of movies were made. We had our first office. We had, I think, a fish called Wonder made in the building where we had our first offices, and Snatch, of course, filmed on Hatton Garden. And of course, since the heist, there's been the movie as well. So
It was a £200 million heist in Hatton Garden. Do you ever fear that something like that might happen to your store?
when that heist happened, I remember we got so many phone calls from lots of wonderful friends and clients that would go, "Are you guys okay? Did anything happen to you?" We were very lucky. We have our own vaults. I'm not going to go into more detail.
Of course,
than
no,
that.
I wouldn't ask.
But it's one of those things. You were asking me whether I'm concerned walking around and wearing things. I think when you work with something every day, it just becomes so much a part of you. You don't really worry about it. And I think if we worried about it, then maybe you wouldn't enjoy it as much as you do. What was interesting, though, is I did not know a single person that lost anything in that heist. And you'd think you would know someone that has lost something. And I never heard of anyone that I know that lost anything in that robbery. So, yeah.
Oh, so is that a conspiracy theory? And did
Not
it
necessarily,
actually?
but I just think it's interesting, I know a lot of people. I've been in the industry for many years, so you would expect to hear that someone had something that they lost and no one that I know was affected. So
So supposed £200 million heist, and yet you're very well known, respected in the jewellery industry, and yet you know no one that lost anything.
Which I guess is great.
That's good.
Oh.
Good. That's fantastic.
But I still think, it's, there were obviously all these deposit boxes. And for me, I think one of the great things with jewellery, it should be worn and enjoyed and cherished. And yes, you have something valuable. Yes, it's an asset, but enjoy it, wear it. And so I find it really sad thinking, if someone has beautiful things and they're hiding away in a deposit box when they could just be worn and enjoyed instead.
It really is a shame because unfortunately in this day and age and the way the state of, London is at the moment, people, and especially myself, I'm fearful to go out with my watches on, Kim Kardashian, what happened with her. There's a lot of fear around it and wearing your very expensive jewellery and making sure it's insured. I mean, how do you deal with that?
I have things insured and I take a very pragmatic approach. I have it, I enjoy it, I wear it, and if someone's going to ask me for it, I will probably reluctantly give it to them. But thankfully, I've never been in that situation, and I wear beautiful things all the time. But I think it is also quite good in a way with jewellery. No one really knows the value of something that you wear. Watches are different in that sense. There's a sort of very regimented, this model of Rolex is so and so. I think with jewellery, people have no idea. You can wear a spectacular Alexandrite that's worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you could be on the tube with it and no one will know its rarity. So and you can enjoy something that's precious, but equally it's quite discreet.
There were people out there who were criticising Kim Kardashian for flaunting her wealth by wearing expensive jewellery. What do you make of that?
You work and you're successful and you want to treat yourself to something beautiful. Of course, you should be able to wear it and enjoy it. At the end of the day, of course, if you're in the public eye and you're publicizing where you are and what you're wearing, maybe you have an added risk, of course, in that way. But equally, I believe all those guys were arrested and
justice was served.
And hopefully she's very much enjoying wearing jewellery still. So
I'm sure that won't stop her.
No.
Another big milestone that I really want to talk about is obviously you and your husband, and how you met your husband, and then how did you suddenly get so involved to the point where I believe you essentially run the business now and your husband is a bit more on the outskirts?
We met through a passion for gems. So we were both working he worked for a different company for a number of years just to develop sort of his knowledge of the industry in a company that's separate to his own family business. And I worked for that same company at the time. So he was based out in New York and I was based in the London office. I was sent to New York to train the team there. And that's how we met. So we sort of met through a shared love for gems. I hear of a lot of couples that work together where, they're sort of at each other's throats. But actually, generally, we have the same taste. And we'll go on buying trips together. And if we don't both love a stone, it doesn't make the collection. So, but the problem is we often both love a few too many stones. So the collection is always larger than it needs to be. But no, so we met through work, and I think he has worked in the business. He had worked in the business since effectively Saturday since he was 10 years old. So he's done that for a very long time. And he's also passionate about flying and travel and some other things. So he's decided to explore other areas that really interest him. And because we sort of very much feel the same way about design, aesthetic, and things like that, it's just naturally become sort of my baby. And now I sort of run the managerial side of the business, but it's still very much a shared passion.
You mentioned obviously you get to fly and you get to go and buy these gemstones, and is there any real adventures that stand out for you?
There's a few trips for sure. The way the industry works, for security and for practicality, everyone travels from different parts of the world and meets in sort of
neutral,
organized sort of gem fairs. So we're not sort of flying to the jungle to sort of buy our gems. So we meet a few times a year. It might be in Asia, in Hong Kong, it might be in the US, or even in Switzerland. So we'll travel a few times. But one trip in Hong Kong I will not forget, because we ended up, the gem fair happened to be at the same time as a level 10 typhoon. And so it was pretty hairy. And I'd say we were in a hotel where one pane of the hotel basically started having the windows go. So windows smashed, the building was shaking. We were on the, 30th floor or something. And we were sort of thinking, okay, we've left two young boys in London with my mom and we're just here buying gems. But actually, it all ended very well. In fact, we did some designs inspired by typhoons afterwards when we got back to London.
But luckily you made it out all okay.
Yeah, we made it out okay.
One of the biggest things everyone says, diamonds are forever, but trends come and go. What's the next big jewellery trend you're seeing at the moment?
We see a lot of colour right now. A lot of interest for really unique, unusual colours. And a lot of warmth. So a lot of warm gold. Like you guys chose yellow gold for Alice's engagement ring. We see a lot of that. And also jewellery that's easy to wear. So we see a lot of stacking and layering and maybe having multiple beautiful pieces, but that can be worn simply on their own, depending on where you are, or just stacking them together if you want a bit more bling. So those are two things that we're seeing right now.
One thing that's actually really capturing the press's attention that I see circulating a lot at the moment is obviously lab-grown diamonds, right? They're on the rise because they're cheaper. So people can go out and buy a 10-carat lab-grown diamond ring for the price of a 2-carat natural. Yeah. How do you guys deal with this?
Well, I think it's great because going back to your question about people being a little nervous or of wearing something fine, actually the fact that there are now lab growns which are so much cheaper means you can comfortably wear your natural diamond piece and people won't really know what it is. I think it also gives a chance to people who couldn't afford a beautiful natural diamond to still get something very beautiful and sparkly. I personally love natural diamonds because I think the whole beauty is that they were formed billions of years ago and they're kind of a miracle of nature. So something created in a laboratory last year doesn't really interest me for the work that we do. But I think it's great that people have options. And but for me, a big part of what we do, is, the fact that they are these sort of miracles of nature and these historic stones. That's what makes it special. And also, over the years, we've developed relationships with the people we work with, and sometimes we'll do trips outside of the gem shows. My husband, for example, has done a few trips to the mines, and you sort of see how you contribute to the families and the work locally where these stones were found, and that's also really lovely. And I can think, for example, of a trip he did a couple of years ago to Colombia, and actually talking of unusual experiences, one of the cars in their convoy ended up in a waterfall, so they ended up having to stay overnight and sleep in one of the mines, and it was great to see, because of course these beautiful stones, super rare. But actually you could then see all the people that work in getting these beautiful minerals before they get cut and polished, and the lives that they have, and they had families with coffee plantations locally, and there was a whole ecosystem just from that one mine where they stayed. So I think that's also something that's great.
What's interesting to hear you say, though, you don't put the lab-grown market down too much. I mean, there's a lot of negative press around how it's diluting the natural diamond market.
Look, I think it's great for customers to have choice, personally, and not everyone can afford a very beautiful, fine quality natural diamond. They are, so I think having the option to still have a beautiful ring, and in fashion, I think we'll see a lot of lab grown, in fashion jewelry and things, but as a symbol of everlasting love, or as a symbol of treating yourself for a very special occasion, I don't see it fitting that space for me personally. But again, I think everyone is different in how they approach it. But, would I aspire to have a lab grown? Not really.
So Hirsh isn't planning on selling any lab-grown diamonds anytime soon?
No, it's not. I have plenty of beautiful natural stone, and I think, for me, that's what it's about.
If you were to design a piece of jewellery for any celebrity out there, would you have one in mind?
We've created bespoke pieces for celebrities, through the years, and I think the one thing that's great is you get a little glimpse and understanding, and you can adapt and create something that is fit for the person and also meaningful to them. But
could you give us some of those names of who?
No, because I think jewelry is so personal, and I think and those relationships, I really cherish these relationships, and they're very personal and private, and I feel a privilege to be a part of them, but I also feel it's my duty to keep that confidentiality. But what I will say is we've done a lot of pieces for people that are in other creative industries, and I think that's always extra fun. Someone that's maybe in the music business or in an author, because they have their own creativity and their own way of approaching things, and I think a real appreciation to what we do, but come at things from a different angle, but being creative themselves.
And have you ever looked at a bit of jewellery and gone, I could have done that way better?
Of course. All the time.
Every bit of jewellery that you haven't designed?
No, I also see things that are very beautifully made, often historic pieces. The reality is today, 99% of the industry is fast fashion, mass-produced, computer-generated. So the reality is pieces like that, are not particularly well made, and don't, if I see something that's mass produced in that way, of course I'll go, I wish we could have made something so much more beautiful. And I think that's the joy of having our own workshop and having, everything done by hand and tailoring everything around the gemstone. It is old school in a way, to work that way, and it is a real luxury, because it's certainly not the quickest, fastest or most cost-effective way of creating pieces, but it is the most beautiful. And I think when you look at a lot of historic pieces, back then less jewelry was produced, and it was generally produced by hand as well, and often very well. So, historic Lalique pieces, or pieces from turn of the century or early Art Deco jewelry, when platinum first started getting used, I can see pieces like that and really marvel at the craftsmanship. So yes, I can, it goes both ways. For sure.
And actually, one thing I would always say is, one thing we've learned on this podcast more than anything is experience is what makes a true entrepreneur and someone amazing at what they do. So obviously you're so experienced in the jewelry world. Your jewelry collection, I see you're wearing some amazing pieces today. Yeah. Must be amazing. So what's your favorite or most amazing piece that you're wearing? I assume you can only be wearing some of your best today.
Do I have to choose?
No, tell us. Talk us through.
Favorite stone, I would say, is probably this two-tone sapphire. So it's a bicolor sapphire. The crystal grew half blue, half yellow, and it was completely clean, and it was cut and polished into this really rare sort of emerald cut shape. And I am partly Scandinavian, so my mom is from Sweden, and it's the colors of the Swedish flag. So when I first saw the stone, I completely fell in love with it and decided. So, but it's not from Sweden; it's actually from Sri Lanka. Wow. And so we made a beautiful ring, sort of Art Deco style, partly platinum and partly yellow gold. So yellow gold to fit with the yellow sapphire side, and platinum on the blue side. So I love that as a stone.
So I've got one last question for you before I let you go. Obviously, actually, something I read in the news was the Duchess of Cornwall visited your showroom. Can you dive into what a visit like that must be like?
She was very sweet, actually. I had probably 6 months old baby at the time. So my eldest son was only just a few months old. And she was visiting around Christmas time. And very gracious, visited a few of the different boutiques in the arcade, and was actually sort of very sweet to Henrik and very interested, I think more interested in my son than in all the jewels, actually. But I do think the royal family definitely appreciate jewels and gems, and actually our late queen as well was very, very fond of her jewellery collection. They use jewellery sort of in a very meaningful way as well, I think, often, to send a message, as the Queen used to do with her brooches.
And did she purchase anything at your store?
It was a sort of a Christmas fair with, visits across. So it wasn't really a purchasing event. That
she was just browsing as she does at millions of pounds worth of jewellery. Fantastic. Sophia, all I can say is thank you so much for coming on this podcast. You've been an amazing guest, and we really appreciate how open and honest as you can be. And it's been a really, really engaging, interesting topic. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching Filthy Rich with me, Sam Vanderpump. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more episodes and exclusive content. For this podcast, search Vanderpod on all major audio streaming platforms. See you soon.